What is up, everybody? How is it going? Austin prechtelevate Performance, coming at you live. Happy Friday, TGIF, everybody. As you guys are tuning in, going to give people a few seconds to get notified of the live. But today, we're going to be talking about fad diets and how they work, but actually don't. Because a lot of people here, if you're watching this right now, especially at a later time, hashtag replay so that way I know that you saw this. But for those of you tuning in, let me know. Have you tried a fad diet in the past? And if you have, what fad diet was it? Because we've all been there. I've tried fad diets in the past whenever I didn't know better. And it's one of those things where they work, but then they start to not work. And then you start to plateau. And then a lot of times you lose all your progress that you had made. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm just going to talk about why they work initially, but then they seem to fall off. You stop making progress. You revert. You struggle with it. And some of that and a lot of fad diets were made with good intentions, but a lot of them, just by design, aren't really meant for long-term sustainability for like 99% of people out there. They're just not. And so I'm going to list off. I'm going to talk about some different fad diets and just basically at the end of the day, there's a common denominator about why they work, and then basically kind of talk about why they work and but how they actually don't in the long term, and what I would suggest you do long term. And if you're a client of mine, whether you're new or old to working with me, you're gonna know the answer to this. You're about to learn the answer to what I think is the best diet out there, and kind of go over why they work and why they don't work. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So as you're watching, let me know, have you ever tried a fad diet before? Leave a comment, say yes, and then if you want, feel free to say which one it was. And then also, as you're watching, feel free to tag one or two people in the comments that you think would get value from this topic. That way, share the knowledge, because sharing is caring. Let's go. So I've actually got a list here of just like of the different diets that are out there. I'm gonna just read them off real quick: keto, paleo, Whole 30, Weight Watchers, Atkins, South Beach, Mediterranean, low carb, vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, low sodium, Nutrisystem, juicing, detox, fasting, intermittent fasting, Beachbody. There's all of these different diets that are out there, these different fad diets that are out there. That's a shit ton, right? I just named off like 15 or 20. There's a lot of diets out there. And so there's a lot of diets out there to try, but the vast majority of them do not actually lead to sustainable long-term progress that's maintainable. And so, why is that? Right? Like, why is that? But why do they work initially? Right? Let's start there. Why do fad diets seem to always work initially, at first? Right? The common denominator. Every single fad diet. I'm here to tell you guys, there is nothing magical about any particular diet when it comes to weight loss. Some of them have certain benefits for like maybe blood pressure, for, some people do certain diets to help with like if they struggle with certain types of seizures, things like that. Yes, I will say that there is some um, benefits in those areas. But when it comes to weight loss, when it comes to fat loss, when it comes to being in shape, being healthy, there's really nothing magical about these different diets. There's nothing magical about keto. There's nothing magic about paleo. There's nothing hyper beneficial about intermittent fasting or anything like that. Right? All these diets are guidelines. I want you guys to view all these different diets, all these different fad diets as guidelines, right? That you're following, that will more often than not and more likely keep you in a caloric deficit. And that's why they work, right? That's why people lose weight when they try keto. That's why people lose weight whenever they try paleo, whenever they try Atkins or Weight Watchers or whatever it may be. That's the only reason why you lose weight, is because you're in a caloric deficit in general, because you're following guidelines that are more likely to put you in a caloric deficit than not. But so they work at first, right? They work at first. You're losing weight. It's awesome because you're more likely to be in a caloric deficit because you're following this fad diet. But then what happens is, well, your metabolism what happens is called metabolic adaptation. A lot of times, metabolic adaptation, which basically just means that your metabolism's like it slowly gets used to your current level of food intake, right? And what happens is it gets used to it, and it's like, all right, we're here, and your wiggle room for weight loss basically is gone. And so now you're at this kind of like level of maintenance. And that's what happens when people plateau all the time. And then they're like, well, crap, like, now what do I do? I follow this diet. Like, I don't know where to go from here. And so what happens is that you maintain or you get frustrated or you get set back because the guidelines a lot of times are unsustainable, right? Most people aren't going to be able to maintain a ketogenic diet for the rest of their lives. There's too many good foods out there that are made up of carbs. There's too many opportunities. Humans are messy sometimes. We are. Like we go out to a family dinner or we go out to hang out with friends or we go do whatever. We want to have drinks or something like that. And then we screw it up and then we feel like a failure because there's these unrealistic expectations for for a sustainable weight loss or fitness journey whenever you're following a lot of these fad diets. And so they work, right? They work in the short term, but in terms of long term progress over the course of time, where you're able to actually maintain it and keep your progress, not so much. Not really for the vast majority of people. For most of those diets or guidelines or mealtime strategies that people follow. And so, why do they fail so often? Why do fad diets have such like a high, like 80, I think it's like 87 or like 94% or something like that of people who do a fad diet gain all the weight back, lose their progress, and oftentimes gain more than they did in the first place because it's like a rubber band, right? Like you're stretching yourself so freaking thin, so much. You're going all out, like really hard, like going fast, like going kind of like the burnout route with a lot of these fad diets. And you pull, and then it snaps back, and there's like reverberation, and that's what happens. There's that snapback effect, and like it's almost like this like spiral effect where people like you you get pushed too far, you're doing something that's not sustainable, and you crash and burn and everything blows up and then it's bad, right? That's not what we want, right? And so fad diets, they work in that way, so you get progress in the short term, but then long term you're kind of screwing yourself. And so why do they fail though, right? One, unrealistic expectations. You have unrealistic expectations going into it, thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna lose my aunt lost 8 pounds in a week, even though like 7 of those pounds was water and glycogen and food probably that was in her body." Um, and and then you go and do it, and when you're like, "Crap, like I'm not losing weight like they did," then you feel bad about it, right? Even though that's unsustainable in the first place, and then you feel bad and it makes you want to quit. It makes you feel like you're not accomplishing anything, and that sucks, right? We don't want that. So that's one thing. There's that like mental emotional wear and tear on top of it also being unsustainable, where it's like you can't ever eat carbs again for the rest of your life. You can't ever eat like high fat foods for the rest of your life. Like you failed. You suck. It creates this all in all out mentality where it's like I'm either on with my diet and I'm killing it, or I'm off and I suck and I'm a failure and I should just quit. And so that happens a lot of times. That happens a lot of times for people. We've been there before. We've all been there before. And so fad diets oftentimes um, I guess like create a culture, not a culture, but create a like almost like a response, or create this like mentality of like all in, all out. It creates this expectation of yourself of being like all in, all out. Either I'm passing or I'm failing and I should just quit. And so fad diets are not good in that way either. And then also just like honestly, like it's it's not fun, like the mental gymnastics of it, and it just makes things suck a lot more than it needs to, in general. I don't like being on an overly restrictive diet. I don't like being told that I can't have something. I don't like being told that I have to starve myself for half the day, or if you're doing like a cleanse or some shit like that's it's asinine. Like you're, you're not making sustainable progress going forward. And so and that leads back to this whole concept of the other thing with fad diets, you don't know why you lost the weight in the first place. You're just following these guidelines, you're just following these rules that you're following, and you don't actually learn why you're losing the weight. You don't actually learn how to do it properly. You don't actually know how to maintain it because you're just following these rules, and because you're just following these like random rules. It's like don't eat bread or don't eat sugar or don't blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, well, what happens whenever I want to actually have those things again in my life and maintain my current progress? Am I just going to gain it all back? Yeah, probably, if you don't know what you're doing and if you don't know how to actually keep it off. And so that's what happens a lot of times is like you're making all this awesome progress, you feel like great, but then you have a slip up, or you're like, okay, I'm done with this now. Like this shit kind of sucks. Like I don't want to keep doing this for the rest of my life. And then you stop. And then because you didn't learn how to actually do it, you didn't build a lot of these habits, these routines, these skill sets, the knowledge behind how all this stuff works to do it sustainably, you gain it all back and then you feel like shit about it and you're like, oh, well, what was that all worth? Like, what was that all for? Like, why did I just put myself through hell for like months on end just to gain it all back? That makes me feel discouraged and dissatisfied with all of like health and fitness in general. That's what happens is people have these like negative feedback loops where they're just like doing it over and over and over again. And a lot of these other things, a lot of these fad diets through certain companies like Weight Watchers or Beachbody or whatever it may be, Atkins and things like that, like they don't want you to keep it off forever. They don't, right? They want to get an awesome picture of you looking good, and then they don't give a shit if you stay that way. They got their picture, and they don't care if you stay that way. They don't care. Like they want you to keep needing them. They want you to keep needing them. They want you to be like oh, like, yeah, you lost all that weight. Cool, have fun, good luck. And then you gain it all back, and they're like, well, how's it going? You remember that time that you lost all that weight really fast and you felt great for like half a second? Um, Remember, it was because of me, right? So come back and take my shit and take my shakes and feel like, and feel amazing for like half a second. And then, yeah. And then it's like, and then you're like, oh, like, uh, we're doing this again, like, and you feel, and it's this vicious cycle, and they know that, like, they know that there's like a low like maintenance rate for their clients progress, and that's built into their business model. They want you to fucking come back to them because they need people to keep failing for them to keep making money. And so that's what I hate about that shit, and that's honestly one of the biggest reasons why I started doing what I'm doing, is because I hated seeing people get taken advantage of. It pisses me off seeing people who don't know what they're doing, not by any fault of their own, just like being taken advantage of and having it happen over and over and over again. It's just and people are always looking for that magic pill, and like I'm here to tell you guys, it doesn't exist. There is not a magic pill out there that will make you who you want to become. You have to make you who you want to become. And so and like at the end of the day, like that's it really is just about sustainability, guys. Um like you need to learn how to um maintain your progress. Like, and so I'm offering you guys a solution here, not in like a work with me sense, but like this is what you need to do. I'm literally going to tell you what you need to do right now if you want to lose weight or build muscle and maintain it and keep it and be able to do it sustainably. Right? I'm just going to tell you guys right now. Are you ready for it? Like it's like really like like honestly, it's simple to understand, right? That's the issue with these things. Just to be straight up, these are simple concepts, relatively simple concepts to understand when it comes to losing weight, but it's hard to put them into practice if you're new to this. It's hard to put them into practice if you don't have somebody to hold you accountable to it. It's hard to put them into practice if you have questions about these things that you just don't know the answers to, right? So I'm gonna lay it all out for you. Just because I'm telling you these things doesn't mean it's actually going to work for you, because you might not be able to put them into practice or take action on them. But when it comes to weight loss, like I teach all my clients sustainable, like flexible dieting. Like I teach them flexible dieting. I teach them if it fits your macros. I teach them, how to fit these things into your day to day. If you want to lose weight sustainably and you want to keep it off, your best chance is having some source of accountability, whatever that may be. But then on top of that, sustainable weight loss happens like most effectively through flexible dieting, and if it fits your which is basically just if it fits your macro / calorie tracking, right? You can still have all the foods that you love and enjoy. You can eat carbs, they're not evil. You can eat fats, they're not evil. Protein is fucking awesome. All of those things, you can have those. You can have all of your foods if you follow an 80/20 like style. Like if you're getting 80% of your food from like good sources, like whole foods, like like not necessarily the grocery store, but just like whole food, like a whole food source, like fruit or meat or whatever it may be, vegetables, things like that, and then you can have 20% of your diet come from other like snacks and like junk food type of stuff, and you're gonna be fine. Like the reason why you follow an 80-20 is because 80% you're going to be getting your micronutrients and your necessary nutrients to like keep your body healthy, and the other 20% it's okay if you have snacks here and there. It's okay if you have some cookies or ice cream here and there. That makes it way more manageable because you're not being told you can't have something, and when you're not told, and when you can have things, you don't feel restricted, and when you don't feel restricted, you're way less likely to not give up and quit and crash and burn. So flexible dieting, if you don't know what that is, look that shit up, right? That's what I teach my clients how to do. I teach them how to track their macros. I teach them what macros are, why they work the way they work, how they work. I teach them how to flexibly diet. I help teach them how to fit the foods that they love into their day to day, because like that's what's going to like help you make it into something sustainable long term. Like is just living life healthily. Like look for lifestyle changes, and that's what like flexible dieting slash like if it's your macros style of like dieting. I like to call it a nutrition plan because that's what it is. That's going to be what gets you guys to where you want to be long term. It's not going to be keto. It's not going to be Atkins. It's not going to be the Mediterranean diet or paleo or any of that shit. Like those things can if you understand how they work and how it's okay if you have some of these things with the overarching theme of calories in versus calories out, CECO, right? Maintaining a caloric deficit if your goal is weight loss, and making sure that you're getting enough protein in so that way you maintain muscle. Those things are what are going to take you the furthest and allow you to keep your progress. So, yeah, cool, awesome. So that's why fad diets work, but actually they don't. And that's why I always suggest, flexible dieting. That's why I just think it's the best thing out there for people, for the vast majority of people who are looking to do this for the long term, right? So, cool. Any questions? Feel free to comment them. I'd be happy to come back and answer them, guys. Other than that, though, let me know your number one takeaway. Again, if you're watching this at a later time, hashtag replay. Feel free to share this with somebody who might get value from this, who might need to hear this. Tag them in the comments if you'd like. If they've been having questions about this kind of stuff and they just want to learn about it more, feel free to do that. What's up, Lonnie? Damn, just missed this. Very informative talk. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, guys. Flexible dieting. That's what you need to be looking into. That's going to be sustainable for you. Ditch the fad diets. They're not your friend. They're not. I honestly, like, I wish and I hope if you do it, you succeed at it. Because, like, you're going to be, like less than the 1% of people that actually can maintain and sustain it. And even them, like, I want to see where they're at 10, 15 years from now if they actually are maintaining it or not. Because at the end of the day, like, what's the point in losing all this weight or putting your body through all this freaking stress if you're just going to gain it back and hate your fucking life during the whole process? So, yeah. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend, everybody. And I will talk to you all later.